Okay, we are supposedly live. I think. I guess we're gonna find out, won't we? We'll get started here in about 5 minutes. Hello, Raw Master. Welcome. Glad you can make it. Trying to doodle something a little quick before I get started. Howdy, Excalibur. Howdy, Shy White. Welcome to the stream. Glad you all could make it to this one. I really should have done some proper warming up before actually drawing for this stream. I'm a little rusty this morning. It's not even in the morning anymore. It was morning. It's okay, I'll figure it out. We'll be fine. I gotta get in the spirit of drawing hands here. That's gonna be kind of a big component of what I'm talking about, and if I can't get those right, then I'm in big trouble. So hopefully I can get my act together here. Let's try to angle his snout a little bit better. I'm gonna be kind of curious on how what the turnaround is gonna look like for this stream, because I had my biggest last month, but I'm not really sure if this one caught as many people's eyes as before, so we'll see what happens. Not that that really matters to me all that much, but just kind of a curious thing. I am Shay. Oh, okay. Must have pronounced it wrong. That's one of my trademarks as a human being, just pronouncing every single name imaginable incorrectly. Gotta stay on brand, you know? Some of these drawings might be a little unintelligible, but that's okay. English is inconsistent in pronunciation, but it helps circumvent censorship. Oh, absolutely. Yep. English is my favorite consonant. Okay, gotta get at least one in here. Just real quick, just so we can put it in the corner. Just something super rough. There we go. It's pretty trashy looking, but like, why would I want to spend any more time trying to replicate the Family Guy death pose? Hello, Don Tastodo, or if I said that right, I don't know. Welcome to the stream. It is 1 o'clock. Oh, there's actually 11 people here. Well, okay, there was 11. It's not too bad. Okay, let me get a sip of water, because I'm going to be doing a lot of yapping in this one, as I've been doing a lot lately, so give me 1 sec. I love how your character speaks. Thank you. Yeah, the moment I figured that out in OBS, when I was able to get that working, I was just all over it. And I recently drew up some new sprites, which are they're the ones you're seeing right now, just for the new year and whatnot, because the old ones were getting kind of old. Wasn't liking them nearly as much. So, okay, we might as well get started here. Hello, folks. Welcome to another monthly stream. I'm your local coffee brewer and pasta aficionado, Nathan. Eat a lot of pasta, but I drink no coffee. Today we're trying something out a little bit different. As has been typical lately, I'm just kind of throwing a bunch of random ideas right now. So, last month's stream went really well, and I guess kind of sparked something in me. Made me realize, oh wow, I actually like talking, like, art theory and philosophy and whatnot and stuff like that. So I kind of want to explore that a little bit more with some of my other niches and interests. So today I figured we'd start with what I probably value most than anything else in drawing, and that's posing, drawing poses with characters and whatnot. To me, this is the essence of what makes good character drawings versus great character drawings, is all in the pose. It's all in how you pose these characters and kind of how you place all of the details and the features to work together on a character to, you know, really bring out their personality better than something like a simple expression or stock pose ever could. So it's something I'm really passionate about, so I figured I'd just go on a ramble about poses for a while. So just to clarify up front, I am not a professor in any capacity, nor do I consider myself a real expert. So everything I'm just going to be throwing out are just from my experiences drawing for many years. Not necessarily professionally, but just throughout my existence as a living human being. So take what I say with a grain of salt, and obviously whatever I talk about, any principles and ground rules and whatnot, I'm one of those people that doesn't believe in like that some things are set in stone. So obviously rules are meant to be broken, so no need to take all of this at face value. But whatever I do say, I hope y'all will find useful, or at the very least interesting. So, I've got no game plan for this stream at all. I have a certain amount of topics and ideas I want to talk about and get to during this 2 hours. But I don't have like a set routine for this, or a set, you know, I don't have a game plan here, so there's probably going to be a lot of rambling. Excuse me, just to warn you up front. And as a bonus, I'm going to be showing off a lot of older art of mine. Mostly as like demonstration on what not to do when you're posing characters, because if you ask me, it took a while before I actually knew what I was doing. And I'm still, of course, figuring things out. So, yeah, that's about it for my preamble. Let me just make sure I'm caught up with chat here, and I'll get right into it. Love drawing poses of characters, especially my favorite, the ballet ones. Yeah. And I'll discuss this later, but like poses are really what separates like one character from another. That's one topic I'm going to try to go into a lot more, is drawing poses or creating poses for that specific character versus another. So tailoring certain like gestures and drawings for certain characters rather than others. So yeah, let's just get started on this Hitchhiker's Guide. Let me just start off a new layer. And feel free to stop me at any time for random questions or whatnot. Again, this stream's going to be nice and casual and informal. There's no high stakes here, so always okay to break up the discussion if need be. So, I guess to start off, most appropriately, let's go into why I find posing so important, so crucial. Oh, and I should clarify too that everything that I talk about particularly pertains to like cartoons, more or less. So some of what I discuss might not apply to all forms of art or art styles, but I feel like they are pretty versatile and pretty applicable to other forms. So again, take what you will. So anyways, let's just start off simple. I'm just going to draw a character real quick. Yeah, we'll just do that. We're just going to draw a simple stick figure man. We'll give him kind of a nice stock pose, like that. Just kind of rough this out real quick. And we'll give him strands of hair. Why not? So let's just use this as our base character for now, because I want to demonstrate exactly why I find poses so important. So obviously when you have a character, especially if it's like for animation or comic books, you really want to visually show how the character is responding, reacting, feeling, all that good stuff. So, a way a lot of people do that is in the face, where they make expressions and whatnot, which, works out really well. You can do a lot with the face. You can do like... Actually, hold on. To make this a little easier on myself later, I'm going to make duplicates of this guy, because I've got a point that I want to emphasize that I have to make duplicates of this guy to actually demonstrate. So let's just make a couple. Give me a second to split all these guys up. Okay, I think that should suffice. So let's draw just a couple expressions on these dudes, just to kind of show a variation in the face. So let's draw happy. Let's do happy, why don't we? Okay, so he's very happy. Everything in his life is going really good. What if we draw sad now? Now he's not doing so well. He's not feeling too good. We'll give him some tears, why don't we? Get his lashes down here. I love drawing eyelashes on characters, just in general. Alright, let's make one that's a little scared. Get a little bit more of a detailed mouth shape here. Let's give him some teeth. He's like chattering his teeth, maybe. Now he's looking really afraid. Or like something just shocked him or something. Maybe he's nervous. And whatnot. Okay, let's draw him mad. He's really ticked off about something. I don't know what. I'll let you guys use your own imagination. Yeah, he's mad. He's pretty ticked off about something. Characters' poses, emotions, gestures are very fluid with a lot of intensity and flow. Love that. No wonder why you value posing so much. Well, thank you very much. And by my standards, I'm going pretty stiff right now. Again, I'm trying to prove a point here. I just gotta set the stage. But no, that really means a lot. So yeah. Angry there. Okay, what about bored? We'll do like bored for the fifth one. Let's just do that. So he's like really bored. Okay, so we got a couple of different expressions going on here. Different sort of moods and characters. So we got one drawing where he's happy, one he's sad, where he's scared, he's angry, and the one where he's kind of bored. So that's all well and good with the facial expressions, but if you squint your eyes, there's like it's not really conveyed that much. Because when you have a character, you kind of want the whole character to kind of embody what the character is feeling. Most people don't express all their emotions just standing around in like the same position all that much. With the one singular eyelash. This is singular. Oh, I didn't even realize that. Here, let me fix that. There we go. Nice expressions. Thank you. But yeah, anyways, you can have as great of facial expressions as you want, but if we really want to elevate these to like a poor old Deb who doesn't have the best eyesight, we really need to like actually make it visible, more visible that these emotions are being felt by this character. And how do we do that? Well, we have to use the entire character for that. So by that, body language, which is insanely important for animation, comics, storytelling, all of that stuff. It's crucial. So let's take these and let's do something a little bit better with them. Really accentuate these moods. So let's start with the happy one. So we'll start with the same circle. We can maybe angle his head upwards a little bit, because I can imagine this guy's chest puffed out a little bit. His back is kind of angled like this. Maybe he's got his like hands kind of in the air like this. Like that. Like he's so overjoyed. And maybe he's skipping too. Because he can't help it. So something like this. And we can have his hair kind of fly back as he's jumping up. Now obviously this is a lot more joyful and jolly than maybe the first one that we had where he's happy. Let's just fill in the details here. But when you look at these two side by side, so this one, let me just do that. It's rough, but hopefully that gets the idea across. But like, which one expresses the idea of like happy and overjoyed better? This one or this, Because it's not just the face expressing that anymore. It's the entire body that's really supporting this idea. So something like that. What if we do sad? Let's try to figure out what we can do with sad. So for happy, we kind of have everything pressing outwards. So like I said, his momentum is forward. His spine is back. His rib cage is kind of tilted, so his chest is kind of puffed out like that. So let's maybe, for the sad, have him coil a little bit. So we'll do something like this. We'll get the head in there. We'll have him look down this time. And we'll have him, instead of just standing there, we'll have him slouch. Like this. Something along those lines, yeah. Just have him really hunched over. We'll have his hair facing down as well, like it's drooping. We'll have his arms and his hands just kind of cuffed down like that. And we'll have his knees bent a little bit. So he's just completely down at the dumps, and everything in the body language is really supporting that. Like it's very closed off and reclused and whatnot. And we'll get that face in there. We'll just have like a pouty like frown or something. So right there you go. Just finish that up there. This really expresses sad a lot more than this drawing does, the one where he's just kind of standing straight. Because as I mentioned before, his body is completely supporting that emotion, where he's down in the dumps. He's not in high spirits, so he's just feeling very low down. So his body language supports that because it's all kind of leaning downwards like this. It's leaning like gravity's taking it by force almost. He just can't take it. So this one is frankly a lot subtler than this one up here with the happy. But again, just making those little adjustments to the body posture it makes a world of a difference. So let's try something a little bit trickier. Yeah, let's do bored. Let's do bored here real quick. You just gave him crippling depression. He was asking for it. He's my dummy, so I can do whatever I want with him. Okay, so bored. So there's a lot of things we can do here. I mean, some people when they're bored, they could just stand there, but how about we can try something a little bit different here. We can maybe have him like sitting on the couch or something. So I'm gonna have to figure this out a little bit. How his body would work in this. I'm not gonna spend too much time on it. So we'll have his legs kind of down like this, but we can use the arms to really express his bored feeling. So we can have one arm kind of recoiled here. We can have one hand kind of pressed against his cheek a little bit. It's kind of like this. So something along those lines. This isn't the best, but hopefully this is getting this kind of idea across. And then the best thing when you have a really strong pose like this, or a stronger one that emphasizes the emotion, you can start doing some neater things with the expression too. You can kind of adjust it so it matches that pose. So because he has his hand pressed against his cheek, you know, because he's so bored, we can have his mouth kind of reflect that. He's got a little bit of that cheek pressing up against his mouth like that. And then we can have his eye sort of react to that as well. So he's really uninterested, really bored. He just doesn't want to put up with it. Just like that. And we can also have his hair down as well, just to kind of emphasize that. So, yeah. So there's bored. Again, just changing the details a little bit and really messing with the direction and the gesture a little bit. We were able to really make this guy look a lot boreder than he is just in that static pose. So I'm not even going to bother drawing the chair because I think you get the point there. Yep. So I'll move you over there. Let's do scared. Let's do terrified here, because that's one of my favorite kind of expressions to do. Are like our take expressions, freakouts. Did you hear the news about Sora AI is going to shut down? I'm so happy. I am overjoyed, honestly. It's like, oh, finally, sweet release. Now, as Stefan Silver, the great character designer, was talking about on his Instagram, he doesn't really think that this is the end of AI as we know it. I'm not really sure if it is either, but this is at least like a big step up from the seemingly endless barrage of bad news we've had in regards to AI forever. So I'll still take it as a win. So yeah, I'm overjoyed by that. So with scared, what I like to do here is kind of have all of the parts of the body, it's like the torso and the arms and the hands, kind of spring out a little bit. So something like this. Something along those lines. So there you go. Hey, Wolfie, glad you could make it. No one mourns the wicked. Bye, Sora. Exactly. Do not mourn the wicked. So we're going to get the face in there again. He might be having, like, looking down. Maybe he's scared by a mouse or something. And then you can have, like, you know, fit some crazy mouth in there. Like, something like this if you want to. Just whatever best fits the scenario. Just gonna darken that in. Just like that. But notice how much more frantic energy this has in comparison to the first one. Because again, his whole body is reacting. His whole body is reacting and expressing the emotion of fear, rather than his face doing all the heavy lifting. Because really, no matter how good a face looks, like I said before, you get so much more nuance and information about this character and how they would react if you actually, you know, use their whole body. And we can even have his hair kind of stick out like that. So, yeah, something like that is way stronger than this one right here, where he's just kind of standing. So let's do... Okay, let's not distort that. That's not what I want. So let's do the last one, where he's angry. Let's see if we can do something with that. As a human artist, I stick to hand-drawn creations. Amen, brother. Amen. So, emphasizing angry. So, anger is a very strong emotion, as a lot of you know. So, having a character who's angry that's just standing there, is not always the most appropriate for every situation. So, in this case, I would really hunch up his spine, really, to really emphasize how hostile he's kind of being. And then we can have... Sometimes I like to bring his arms out. Bring the arms out a little bit. Just everything's kind of like... He's like trying to... I'm really not sure how to word this, but you get what I mean. At least I hope you do. We'll make his legs really squared up. He's defending, he's being defensive right now. That's kind of what I'm going for here. He's being really aggressive. But again, notice how I have like really strong sweeping shapes here that are kind of emphasizing the attitude. So you have this back that's like curling all the way up, these arms that are shooting outwards like this. That's stuff that really pushes a character and makes their emotions just that much more readable. So even though this is kind of what I'm doing right now, more or less the same expression as this one, the emotion is way stronger because I'm really pushing that body to fully express like what the character is thinking and what they're feeling and what they're about to do, I guess. You can even do fun things with the hair where it's kind of like curled up like this. So there's a brief little intro demo as to why I think character posing is so important. As you can see, pushing the body language to the nth degree, no matter what the expression is or what the emotion is, will, in my opinion, infinitely improve the drawing tenfold and just really make the statements that you're shooting for that much more clear and much more evident just from a single look at it, and a lot more memorable too. Just show him an AI artist. That's usually a good way too. So if you want to do that, go on ahead. Silhouette is very clear. Thank you. Yes, that's actually something I want to talk about too, are the silhouettes. So while I'm actually on that topic, I'm just going to go ahead and black these out real quick. So give me 1 second. Because silhouette is also a huge part of clear, good posing. So if I were to silhouette the sad one out, so something like this. Notice how you can still kind of tell the emotion and the attitude just from how the silhouette is. And you can also like see most of the details that you need. So like you've got the hair on top here. It's kind of jawing out. You can see the arm kind of hanging loose like that. And the legs are arched. And the body, like the spine is kind of leaning. It's kind of out of... It's just leaning downwards. So from the silhouette, you can already tell what the emotion is. Same if we darken down this one. I'm just going to crank up the opacity on the brush to make this quicker. But if we were to darken this now, just real quick. Something like this. Well, yeah, you can clearly see the body posture and the angle at kind of where they're facing. You can see how their legs are positioned and their arms and whatnot. And just from the silhouette and how it's posed alone, you can tell exactly what they're feeling and what their like their thought process is, like what's going on in their head. Same if we do this happy one here. I'll lower the opacity just a little bit. It's a little bit blockier than I would like, I think. Again, we can kind of tell what's going on here. the body, like the body gesture, again, like I said earlier, it's shooting outwards. It's really kind of puffing out. So that really emphasizes like a sort of energy. You see his arms are facing outwards. They're opening up, and the legs are kind of skipping behind. So you can instantly tell right away that this is a very happy character right here. Same with the scared one. I mean, I don't even need to block all this out for you to even, tell what this is and what the silhouette would look like, because if I do this, I can even do like the mouse shapes. Like, you know exactly what's going on here. The character's jumping because they saw something that spooked them a little bit. Just from the way the arms are kind of spread out and the legs are jolting, you can tell that exactly. Now, I'm not really sure about this board one. I'm not really sure if I did a great job here. Well, this one even still you can tell a little bit just from how he's kind of arched. He's like leaning against something. You can kind of see his elbow and his hand coming in here into view, and how his arm is resting here. So, yeah. Otherwise, if let's take the angry one for instance. If I did a silhouette of this, it's like, okay, I can see there's a character there, but what is he feeling? What mood is he in? What emotion is he expressing right now? It's basically impossible to tell right now. All I see is just a character standing. Even though the character could have all these different facial expressions, when you black it out, it's like, okay, what's going on? Yes, that's one of our cats right now. They are screaming their head off right now. I don't know why. She just kind of does it whenever she feels like it. But yeah, she is very loud and annoying sometimes. I'm glad she's coming through the mic though. That's hilarious. So yeah, so that's just posing simplified to its bare essence there. Of course, if I take away the silhouettes there, then you can see all the details coming in. But yeah, that's usually a really good way to know if you're on the right track with your poses, is if through the silhouette, you can tell exactly what's going on. So that is my basic rundown on why I think posing is so important. So let's dive into some more specific stuff now. How about your character stand forward and posing against a tree, and the scared one backwards. You get space from the tree. Exactly, yes. It's thinking about how the character reacts to specific situations and how their whole body reacts to it, not just their face. Like, how their body can perfectly encapsulate what they're thinking and what they're feeling. That's what posing's all about. So now, while it's on my mind, I want to go ahead and discuss, I'll just make a folder to organize these, just because I might want to reference them later. But now I kind of want to go into a couple of cartoonists and artists that I think were masters of posing, and just to an attempt kind of show in action what I'm describing here. So let me get up a couple of artists that are some of my favorites when it comes to their really good, effective, clear posing. So just give me 1 second to kind of assemble some materials here. Okay. Sorry if I become quiet. I am gathering reference materials. Trust me, the wait will be worth it, hopefully. Okay. Really, still looking. again, it makes me wish I kind of prepped a little bit more ahead of time, but it's not a big deal. Okay. No problem. Thank you, folks, for your patience. I greatly appreciate it. Okay, so we'll start off with one of the kings of comic book cartooning, Harvey Kurtzman, one of the founding fathers of Mad Magazine and just in general one of the greatest cartoonists to ever be alive. So, Kurtzman, as we can see here, his Hey Look comics are just holy grails of mine and so many other artists. They're just absolutely incredible for their directness and their simplicity. But in this comic, he's got this character who's trying to crack this egg open. He wants to eat it so bad, but the egg will not open in any circumstance. So he's trying to crack it open. So in the beginning, he's kind of more dopey before he really starts getting infuriated. So just look at some of these poses and how simple they are, and look how well they read. Especially this one in the panel where his legs are kind of up in the air. Look how much motion those legs have. It's like you can visibly see he's jumping for joy over this egg. Or right here, you know, these poses down here are really great when his frustration is really going insane. Like you can just feel the momentum in every single one of these lines. I do have Preston Blair animation 1 as a fave. That one is really good too, the Preston Blair book. But again, look how simple these drawings are. But so much is expressed, and I'm sure if you put a silhouette over most of these, you would exactly tell what kind of action is going on at that moment. It's amazing. Here's another one. Another Hey Look strip. Let's just take a look at this one real quick. Again, in like a typical comic, I guess, like a unremarkable comic, all of these emotions being expressed, like the frustrations of this man, could be expressed with him just standing around in a room and his face just changes. But no, his entire body reacts to like what's happening. So in this comic, this man is trying to silence a radio because it just won't shut up. And you can see the frustration, not even just in the faces, but in the poses too. It's just, he's grown manic, especially in this one right here when he's hammering down the radio. It's insane. Again, the posing here in these comics is just a sight to behold in their simplicity and whatnot, which I hope to get into that topic of simplicity a little bit more as we go on. Yeah, really, really incredible. Okay, next artist here. I'm just gonna pull like a couple random strips that show up on Google Images for now, just for time. So I'm gonna actually organize these, just in case we want to reference them later as well. So do that. So, Bill Watterson, who, other than Charles Schulz, is my favorite newspaper comic artist. He was an insane genius when it came to really expressing the characters through really fun, energetic poses that, again, are very, very simple. I'll bring up another strip here. Like, you can basically tell what's going on, like, the thought process of these characters really just through their posing and whatnot. Even in this low-res image, you can still kind of tell what's going on just by how direct the posing is. Especially in Calvin, who, in a lot of circumstances, kind of has, like, the same face. Like, look at this running right here. That's insane. And we were talking about, like, having just stiff standing poses. You can make stands really lively too, and we'll try to get into that a little bit later as well. Maybe when I start demonstrating some of my really cruddy artwork later. And Watterson was so incredible that he was really able to marry like the expression with the pose. So in this drawing, for instance, right there, it's just like, oh, it's perfection with how he drew that. So there's one of my posing idols there, Bill Watterson. Father literally gave me this name from Calvin and Hobbes. Oh, well, that was either a really humble thing or kind of a bad move on your dad. I guess it depends on what his thought process was. Calvin's kind of a turd, but that's okay. Okay, and in the discussion of posing, I have to bring up my favorite cartoonist pretty definitively, Gene Deitch of Terrytoons and like cartoons like Nudnik and whatnot. He had a very simple, elegant style. You know, very plain shapes and line work. This is character Foofle from Terrytoons. But so much personality expressed in so few lines. Oh, this is really great right here. This model sheet from the Nudnik cartoons, which are some of my favorite of all time. And Nudnik's kind of this sad, like, poor hobo who just wants to make friends when he has the worst of luck. Look how lively these poses are and how clear they are. There's quite a lot of detail going on in Nudnik's design, but you can very visibly see what's happening. So for instance, like him picking up his pants as he's running so he doesn't trip on him. Like you could probably see that in the silhouette. Even how he has like the his arms sticking out like that. Or when he's digging in his pockets, like that's in the silhouette too. Again, very simple. His whole body is acting, it's not just his face. So something like that is very, very important. Let's see if I can get anything from his Tom Terrific cartoons real quick. There was a model sheet he had in I think in Leonard Maltin's Of Mice and Magic, but I don't think anybody's shared it online, which completely baffles me. Some of the line work of these old comic strips just hits different. I know, the line work of the old comic books and the comic strips are just insane to me. They're wonderful. So there's some Tom Terrific poses right there. Again, look how few lines are actually being used here. But the shapes in use and just how clear everything is. Like this pose of Tom picking up Manfred the Wonder Dog could have been insanely complicated and contrived, but look how clear it is. And how clearly he was able to express Manfred's confusion over the whole ordeal. So, yeah, Gene was a master at simplistic drawing. I love Deitch so much. I could dedicate an entire stream just to kind of discuss his work and my admiration for him. Okay, and one last mention before we start going into drawing again. Let's talk about Milt Gross for a second. Probably the most cracked out of all of the classic cartoonists of the 20th century. Again, he was really masterful with drawing poses, but he had possibly like the weirdest style of any cartoonist at that time. Very unique to him. But, and some people might even consider his work like sloppy, but look how much life he jams into this man just like losing his clothes, you know? Something as simple as that. There's just so much energy in his poses, even if from an outsider perspective, it might look kind of crude. But no, the very, very sophisticated drawings when you really get down to how they're structured and whatnot. They're very interesting. And again, very simple too, and very direct. Again, using the entire body to kind of express what the characters are doing, where they're going, what they're thinking, and all that. In comic books, this is where like the pose is the most important, arguably, because it's not like animation where you can have a character move around to express thoughts and emotions. With comic books or like comic strips, you have to have poses that have so much life in them that they read as moving, even by just looking at them. So that's something that's very hard to achieve. But yeah, I figured, before I get more into depth about great posing, I thought I'd show you the best posing in the world from some of the great masters of the past, who I happen to love very much. So, just a little bit of a just exploratory dive there. And I absolutely recommend looking into these people's works and studying them more, because you can mine a lot from these. The sensation of movement from those comics are so good. Exactly, yeah. That's what good posing should be for me, is it should really encapsulate the movement in one still image and just perfectly encapsulate that. I watch cartoons on TV. I watch my cartoons on a toaster, personally. That would explain a lot about me, wouldn't it? Okay, so... where should I go to next? I know I was gonna kind of discuss a couple of things. So, let me just kind of start showing off some of my old artwork here, because I kind of want to use it as a launching point for a couple other points that I really wanted to discuss. Again, I should have had at least some semblance of organization before starting this one, but, you know, that's okay. We're gonna make it work. Good evening, Manuel. Welcome to the stream. Glad you can make it for this one. Okay, so a lot of my let's see. I'm trying to figure out how to start this off. So like all artists, you don't really start off knowing what you're doing right away. So when it came to how I drew characters back then, how I posed them, I was not good at all, even if I wanted to pretend I was. And I think one of the biggest catalysts of this that made me realize this was... Okay, let me see if I can bring up the first issue here. So, some of my fans might know this, some of them not. The longtime ones probably would. But back in my high school days, in my junior, senior years, I drew up a school comic book for the school newspaper called Extraterrestrial Escapades. This might sound familiar, and these guys might look kind of familiar as well. So I drew these at a rather quick pace, because I still had to deal with homework and whatnot, so I didn't spend too much time on these. But I really should have, because these are... They might have been really like probably some of my best at the time, but definitely after 5 years they look really clunky in certain aspects. They might not ring as that immediately, but yeah, there's a lot of clunky elements to these. Just pulling up some of the early ones here. Yeah, issue 6 has a lot of weird stuff going on in it. I mean, obviously it was really good practice to kind of do comics at a regular pace, but yeah, I don't think I was quite ready. Just looking at these, there's a lot of issues, and I'll kind of analyze them egregiously as we get in. So, love your comics. Thank you. I don't really draw that many comics anymore these days. I mostly animate at this point, but I'd love to do comics again if I had more time. So I didn't really have a plan when it came to analyzing these and kind of picking apart why some of the poses just do not work. But one very important thing, and this kind of goes back to the silhouette thing, is making sure your poses read well. And in terms of these comics, I don't think I did a really great job. I think I kind of missed the mark. And let me kind of explain what I mean. So there's certain bits of business in these comics where I don't think the poses and the expressions really match kind of the attitude that the characters have. And a lot of the problems are just like drawing issues, like proportions particularly. Like, why is Gordo's head so big and his body so... Like, these legs here, it's just, what is going on? They have noodle legs. Joanna's the most prettiest and inspirational ballerina I created. Ooh, look at that. I look at poses specifically like this one. Where, like, he just hit a wall, and he's kind of, like, mildly annoyed. Here, let me actually pull up the sci file for this one right here. In the lore of the comic series, this is when they first meet Emma Fitzgerald, who for a long time was Quincy's love interest against his own will, which I've since changed. So look how disgusting these layers are. I don't know if you can see how many are here, and they're not organized in the slightest, but I was kind of a demented kid. I was a demented high schooler. So let's just lower the luminance of these completely. Okay. Tell me what's going on here. You know, what is happening? Or in this pose right here, it's like, is he upset? Is he, or what's he doing here? What's he thinking? This was just a huge issue in regards to the silhouette thing. It didn't occur to me all that much. Obviously some things when you're posing are going to be out of view. Like, I guess the silhouettes here are fine enough. But yeah, there's seriously certain things where like the posing could have been a lot better. And like I've pointed out before, just the legs here, they're so skinny. Lack of labeling on these layers is bothering me. It's a horrific sight, ain't it? Or even like right here. Let's actually go into this one a little bit, because this pertains to one point that I really want to discuss. In fact, I'll lower the opacity a little bit. I might do some draw overs here. So, okay, no, we don't want that. So probably the easiest way to kind of get, you know, energy in your poses to make them feel more unified is what a lot of classic folks call the line of action. So you have like basically a line that represents that action and the emotion, and then you can kind of work off that. Basically, a line of action helps you kind of position everything in a way where each part of the body works within that line to kind of express a general attitude or whatnot. And for a lot of people, this tool is very helpful. So something like this, you know, everything works with the line to kind of express an attitude. So something like that. A lot of the times, kind of a guilty admission, I guess, but I just will usually imagine, like picture the line of action in my head, and then try to build everything off of that as I'm seeing it in my imagination. But on top of the line of action, what I try to do is to kind of have every single element. I try to have leading lines, as I call them. So instead of having random breaks in the drawing, where like there's a pause and then we get like something completely new kind of coming out, I like to try to have as much of the pose connected as possible. So really using like really long sweeping lines that kind of take care of several aspects of that same pose. I'm probably not worrying it too much. The best way to kind of explain and show my idea is to just draw it. So let's do that. Let's take this pose, for instance. Clearly she's introducing her stage show, Lily is, in this case. I'm not even going to talk about the drawing quality, because that's a discussion for another day. But if I were to do this now, let's see. I'm going to lower the brush here. Lower it again, because it's getting a little bit too bright for my taste. So we'll have the head. So I would probably push the line a little bit more even, have it even more outward. Kind of makes my art stiff, so I try to eyeball it if I'm really struggling. Yeah, I think with the line of action, sometimes what happens is that you try to match everything to it rather than, you know, following it. There's definitely a difference between, like, following the line of action as a guide rather than trying to string all of the parts of the character onto the line. So maybe I'd even have Lily's head angled like this, but I'd have her body like really shoot up here. Something like this, where it's kind of shooting outwards. Just doing something really quick here. So it's like her neck's kind of cut off a little bit because she's just so enthusiastic about it. But notice how we got this line. Then I'm going to continue this line with the rib cage to the stomach to the hip bones into the legs. And then we got this sort of motion going on. Same with here. I'm going to move the legs. All still kind of the same line. Same idea. Same with this. We'll kind of go into this. Then we can have her legs kind of facing this way almost. So everything that's going on right now is kind of an extension of one direction, of like one thing of momentum. So like this is like basically one whole line here, but I've worked it in a way where the chest, the rib cage, the hip bones, the butt, the legs, they all are connected. And they're all kind of working together. And you can do even the same with the arms here. So we can have them raise up like this. And I can continue on the back line. Further up into the arms, like this. And then kind of mirror the same thing on the other side, like this. And how's the arms kind of... The hands are kind of positioned. We'll have a little bit more outwards like this. Something like that. They're more outwards. And then we'll try to get some of these details, like some of the details in here, just a little, like just kind of in there, but so they actually match the direction of everything else too. So we'll get the coat in there, or the robe, or the cloak, whatever you want to call it. Any variation of. So we'll get that in there. And we'll make it nice and fluffy and whatnot. Can't believe he said that character had disproportional legs as if he was trying to be proportionally accurate. Well, I guess what I mean by proportion is just like, does it make sense? Does it logically work with that character? I don't know. It's kind of a funny thing though. Yeah, I mean, it's not really proportionate to real people at all, but I guess we can go into that a little bit more. Why proportions are so important with posing and whatnot. So we'll get that in there. And then we can even get the hat in there if you want, or like the hair. So notice that because I made this pose a little bit more unified in a bunch of the details, and everything's kind of connected, there's all of a sudden a lot more energy in it. Like it feels like one kind of like one organic mass rather than like separate parts, if that makes any sense. And we can have the hat shoot up like this, kind of like that. So now, okay, so let me actually get the sci file up for this one to kind of demonstrate this. Again, don't mind the absolute horror of of the in copious amounts of layers there. Okay, I'm just gonna close that out. And now I'm not organized over here right now. This is kind of a mess on my end. So let's actually go ahead and black this out. Let's silhouette it. Just gonna get the basic strokes in there. I'm late. Hi, welcome Cartoon Chaos. Glad you can make it, and no worries about being late at all. Not much has happened. We've just been talking poses. I've been talking like general stuff at the moment. And I've been very, very loose with my organization, so I've just kind of been rambling. Okay, so let me go ahead and like accentuate this here. Okay, so we got the with this silhouette here. If we look at the original, kind of hard to tell what's going on really. It's like, okay, what's going on? I can understand that that's kind of like the hands or whatnot, but I don't know, looking kind of straight here. I don't know how else to put it. But if we go to here, a lot more clear, right? We can feel this like a sort of momentum and the attitude here, and we can more clearly see what's going on. Because it's not just the body parts in place where they should be or whatnot, right? Everything is kind of supporting each other to support the attitude a lot better and whatnot. So that's kind of what's going on there. Maybe not... Okay, I'm losing my train of thought here. Hold on, sorry guys. So I'm just going to delete that for now. So I really should have like combed through the comics to kind of figure out what would be like a perfect kind of way to emphasize like what I mean by the leading lines thing, but I'm just thinking of something else here too that I might as well discuss because I think it's rather important. I'm just trying to remember. Again, some sort of loose planning probably would have been nice on my part with which comics I went over. But we can go over something that I notice a lot with a lot of this older art, which for posing plays a particularly big role, and just in drawing in general. Looks like it has a better direction of movement, right? Yeah, exactly. Like the momentum, let me just bring it back. So like this one, I'm just gonna delete all these. There's a lot more energy to it. It's like the direction of the legs up into the body, like the stomach, into the chest. It's all shooting outwards. She's like, everything about her is shooting outwards, like her hands, and she's leaning forward and whatnot, and her hat's kind of like acting as like a counter. So everything, every way that I have like the hands and the arms, the legs and the torso all positioned, work together like in unison to kind of get the pose that you want. So that's kind of what I was going off there. Again, I know I wasn't really explaining it too well. Usually when I'm drawing, it's very hard for me to talk at the same time. So yeah, this stream was a great idea, wasn't it? Your drawing looks more three-dimensional in terms of gesture. Yeah, exactly. It's all about that gesture. And the forms really can help out a lot too when it comes to that. Let's clear out some of this. So, I kind of want to discuss the clear posing thing again. I want to discuss about this one, or some of the action here. So, at the beginning of this comic, this very old, stinky comic, Gordo and Quincy are walking through the Jubby Bubby jungle, and they bump into a camouflaging Emma. And Quincy's a little disgruntled about it. But this pose is just kind of generic. There's not a lot about it that is like really clear or direct about like what Quincy is feeling at all. So I'm going to try to explain this and kind of go over why it's kind of a failure in a way. I'm just going to get rid of that. No need to save that. So here's the thing. It's not very clear, and for this pose, there's like very little that's actually supporting his state of mind, other than the fact that he has his hand like on the top of his forehead, I guess. This is like very much a stock pose for Quincy. So, you know, when I'm posing out characters and I'm thinking about like how they're reacting to their surroundings and whatnot, I really want the character's attitude and gesture to really reflect how they're feeling, kind of how they're processing things and what they just experienced and all that stuff. So he's like longing for, you know, excitement of some kind. He hits Emma and he's like, okay, not like this. But again, this pose doesn't really say much. It's just a face and and a pose basically. So when he hits this, how about he like recoils a little bit and he's facing this way. We kind of want to make it look like he's actually going to face the camera and breaking the fourth wall in this instance. So we're going to kind of twerk his head a little bit like this. Instead of having his hand completely contained in his body so you don't even see it and have it sprung out, because that just makes no sense. We're going to have his arm kind of pressed up against his hips, I guess, or whatever. And we'll have it kind of like in a fist. So that way it looks like he's like really fed up about this. But we'll have that fist stick out a little bit, so that way it can read in the silhouette. Just a wee bit, so there's enough there. And then we'll have his arm kind of work out like this as well. And then we can have his legs play a little bit more of a part where he's like really angry or like not very overjoyed about this particular circumstance. Specific characters in the comic. Yeah, thank you. Again, with comics, it's like you have to make sure that the drawings are clear and direct, because again, you don't have the luxury of animation where the characters can move and kind of do some of that heavy lifting. It's like you cannot sacrifice, you cannot have bad posing in a comic at all, if you can help it. So he has his legs spread out a little bit, like he's kind of stern, and in fact I'm going to actually adjust the shape of this leg a little bit better. Like this. So it actually is a little bit more in here. That's another thing that I'm probably going to address after this, is balance. So making sure the character actually looks like they can sustain themselves. Because if you've been a very observant viewer, you might have noticed in some of these comic strip samples that these characters are not... It looks like their legs could snap and then they could fall at any second. So instead of just having his arm kind of on the side here, I'm going to bring it way up so we can kind of like scratch his head a little bit, or like kind of hold it to a certain extent. So now that this part is really going to show up in the silhouette and just really show up that much more strongly, instead of just kind of being on the side so it kind of looks like a lump. And notice how I've got, even though this is on the opposite side of Quincy, I got this, the bottom of his arm kind of in a way connected with his body and kind of into his turning head. So that's kind of what I mean by leading lines. So all the lines are kind of working in conjunction with each other to express a unified idea. So we're going to have something like this. So now even from just like the pose itself, you can kind of better tell the attitude. Like he's just like, something hit him, or at the very least he's annoyed by something, just from the way he's posed. And of course we can have a bit where he's like, we can work with the face. We can make that a little bit more lively too if we wanted to. Let's actually make it like, he looks more confused there. Quincy's kind of a tricky character to draw, in my opinion. When it comes to the expressions, at least the way I've got him now. I don't know if it's just because of how specific his face is in a lot of ways now. He's not as simple as he once was, let's put it that way. But even something like this better conveys the idea that he just hit something without noticing and he's not really happy about it. Something like that. Again, everything is working together to kind of express the idea a lot better. So this is, yeah, it expresses the concept a lot better than this drawing does. And if we copied this and we made it dark again, just blacken it out. I'll do that real quick. Just kind of blacken it out here. We'll erase some parts here that need to be clearer. Right there. I mean, it's still not entirely clear, That's not the clearest as it could be, but you can still see that his legs are kind of arched to the ground like that, kind of spread. It means he's a little bit ticked about something. It's very clear he's got his one hand, his one arm kind of on his hip, and you can see his arm come up, and you can sort of make out the fingers on the top, kind of scratching his head. So from there you can even tell like kind of what the character is going through and what they're thinking. So again, stuff like that is insanely important. So I'm just going to save that over here for now as well. Give me a quick second. I'm going to check how OBS is holding up. Yeesh, I started violently dropping frames at some point. It was going really well earlier, but now it's just freaking out again. That's not great. Yeah, that's okay. I try my best. Okay, so looking at these strips again, I kind of want to discuss something that I find very important. I don't know where I got this theorem from, but I think it's crucial for really good like posing and acting and whatnot. And that is, at least in cartoons, and that is to avoid parallel lines if you can help it. What do I mean by this? Well, let's go back for a minute. I'm just going to close that out. So if we go here, we'll just mess around here for a bit. So let me just draw two pairs of lines here. They're kind of making like a curve motion. So we'll do this one. Then this is pair 2. So I don't know if you can kind of notice the difference of like which one almost has more momentum, if you will. So in this particular instance, this one kind of looks a little static because you have two lines kind of going in the same spot and they're kind of spaced evenly out the entire time. So there's not a lot going on here. But notice how when we have these two pairs of lines, we really have, they're kind of shooting outwards, or if you look at it the other way, they're shooting inwards. So there's like a sort of speed and momentum that you see when you go one specific direction versus the other. The space between them is getting tighter, and in one end it's getting a lot more open. So basically what I mean by this is if you got like I don't know, a leg, like a foot. Let's imagine this to be a leg right there. Then you got the foot. I mean, that's fine and all, but what if you had something like this? Okay, we're just going to draw this part again. Then you had like this, and then that, like there. Obviously some more definition. But I mean, look how much more interesting this leg is compared to this one. All the lines are basically even with each other, so there's not a lot of shape variation at all. And it kind of, because of that, there's just not a lot of momentum in where this leg is going. It just kind of looks like a maze. Now here, we got this leg. There's some actual momentum going on in the forms here. So we got like, the leg is kind of shooting, it's, the further down you go, the skinnier it gets till we get to the knee. And then from there, we get the exact same pattern again. It gets a little bit shorter as we get closer to the foot. So basically what I'm saying here is that if you use lines in this sort of fashion where they're never really parallel, or rarely at all, then you'll end up with a lot more lively results, with a lot more energy. And plus, this is just something you see more in real life than parallel lines. Parallel lines, I usually think of like pipes in a sewage system or something when I think parallel lines, or like skyscrapers where they're all completely geometric and whatnot. So something like that. And parallel lines, I usually think of like, where I hang my towel after I've taken a shower. So very symmetrical things, which, in real life serve their purpose, but that's about it. Whereas in real life with organic things, so like, humans, animals, even bacteria, I guess. Like, there's very little about them that's rhythmic or symmetrical. So that's something that I keep in mind a lot when I'm drawing, is to try to keep the asymmetry, like, as much, I really want that asymmetry because symmetry kills when it comes to good characters, in my opinion. It's much more memorable in the second leg. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this reads better, if I just blacken this out here. Like, there's just a lot more interesting, like, shapes and movement going on in here than in this one, where just, again, it looks like a pipe system, basically. So, yeah, just a very small little tool that, in my opinion, works tremendously for all sorts of things. Even in the pose I just drew, you notice that, like, Quincy's legs, they're kind of not parallel here as we're going into the knee. And even the foot is kind of shot out like this, like that. Even in the arm, you can kind of see it, where, like, the forearm is showing out like this. We got the elbow, and then right here up to the shoulder, it's not very parallel here either. Even same with this arm as well. You can kind of see it. Not saying you have to avoid lines that are parallel, like, forever, like the plague. That's absolutely not true, but being conscious of that is something I think is very, very important. So I figured I'd bring it up there while it was still on my mind. I want to bring up another set of drawings that I did, also from high school, if I can find these. This was for a Gothic literature class that I was a part of. So I ended up, we were reading Bram Stoker's Dracula for a couple months, analyzing it and whatnot. And I think the end assignment was like you had to summarize, like, the book somewhat. I'm just trying to get these organized so I can delete them in succession. Boom, 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 boom. So basically, like, summarizing events in the book in whatever fashion you want. I obviously decided to draw everything. These drawings are very not good. And the main reason why is that they are not very clear, and there's a lot of clustered elements in here. This is kind of where I wanted to discuss a little bit more about the simplicity and really, like, avoiding stiffness in the drawings and really accentuating the shapes for better poses. So, what I mean by cluttered is that, especially if you look at Dracula's face here, he's got his nose shooting out, but then you also have these teeth that are kind of getting in the way, and then, like, parts of his clothing too. It's kind of a mess. It's really sloppy. So I want to go into at least one of these and really accentuate how something like these could be improved on even better. So let's work on this one for a minute. Might be able to discuss a couple things there. So let's plop that in there. So I don't remember at which point in the book this was from because I haven't read the book since high school. So my memory is a little foggy. But here, this is where Drac is trying to convince one of the ladies, I forgot what her name was, to kind of join him by his side to kind of grow his vampiric army. But she obviously refuses because she cares about her friends first and foremost and whatnot. So, yeah, let's kind of delve into this a little bit more. So what I tried to do, well, or at least what I think I tried to do, was kind of have his back a little bit more hunched, have his shoulders a bit high, and have his neck shoot out a little bit. So there's something about him that's a little bit, it's like forceful, kind of demanding, kind of psychotic about it. And then the lady over here is kind of more casual about it, and she doesn't really give a crud because she doesn't want to support Drac and what he's doing. Completely fair. So this is where keeping that simplicity and unifying details, I think, is incredibly important. I wonder if my stream is constantly resetting or something, because I got the stream up on my phone, and it's like picking up at random points right now. Really hope that's not the case. It probably is. Anyways, so let's start with Drac in this case. Now when you're doing a pose, it's best to kind of start off with, the simplistic, the bare bones features, the basic ingredients of the pose. So I'm going to get his head in there. In fact, I'm actually going to like maybe make it a little bit more taller. I'm just going to give him like a massive forehead, because why not? Have to find that. No, we'll just stick with the biggest basic circle. Just for time. But he's also then got his neck. Now here, I'm going to do the you know, again, using non-parallel lines here. I'm going to have his neck shoot out still. We'll have his head kind of tilted down that way. But we'll have his neck kind of lead into his shoulders a little bit, his shoulder blades, because we can have those shoot out. Then we'll just have those down there for a minute. And then we can have the back kind of follow. And then we can have his back arched even more to kind of give a more intimidating presence. Because here he's really stiff. I don't know if you can see that, but it's like a straight line here. But, you know, nobody's spine is completely straight like that, so we want to change that. I'll just do like a quick expression here with Drac. Just kind of do a better face on him. Just doing my own interpretation of this guy on the spot. And that's something I didn't do with the first drawing, is actually place his ear in the right spot. It's kind of gross. Have his mouth kind of open like in the original drawing. Have his chin out like this. Kind of like that. Yeah, that should work out just fine. But notice how much more momentum this has already compared to the original, because we're just changing very slight elements. So for this, you know, we've got the neck, like I said, connecting with the shoulder blades almost, and then the back kind of spews out from that, and now we have that arching. So the way I'm kind of imagining this is we have his rib cage here, and his pecs. Something a little bit more like something like this. This is kind of something you can mess around with too when you're posing, is having that contrast between one side where there's like one huge sweeping line, and then another side where like all the details kind of occurring. So for instance, right here with Drac, I've got his back hunched over. It's one full line. But then on the opposite end, we've got, you know, his ribcage and his stomach and whatnot. And it's all kind of bunching up on the other side to really emphasize that. So now to better kind of show his arms, we'll have something kind of like this, where they're more rhythmic. Hold on. Gotta get my hand drawing skills in proper order here. I mean, that'll work. I mean, there's something about this that looks kind of terrifying, so we'll go with it for now. But I think you could kind of see my point as I'm drawing this right now. What I mean by just kind of connecting everything together. We can even have his second hand kind of represented here. Like that, just have his thumb in there. But notice how there's just a lot more space and breathing room too, with how I've separated the hands from the face and all that. A great artist like you shows his drawings from the past, and then you react like, well, that's amazing, and then he proceeds to talk trash about it. No, that's something that I've had to learn like many times over. I look at my old art, and I go like, man, this does not look good. What the heck was I thinking? But you know, at the time people liked it, and people still apparently like it. So I don't know. When I look at my old art, I'm not necessarily trying to tear it apart at all, more or less. But I always think about like what I could have done better, you know, and how I really could have made it sing a lot better. That's why I'll redraw stuff sometimes, just to kind of prove to myself that I can. But it's great that you all like my old drawings so much, especially since I can't really all that much myself. So, yeah, let me just put that in light right now. So yeah, notice what we got going on here. I'll get like a red line or something. So a really strong line that's kind of in there. And like I mentioned before, everything is kind of working in unison to really emphasize this. Like the neck, the back of the neck is connected to the shoulder blades, and that kind of almost draws over to the back, which leads down here, which kind of leads into the legs down here, and also to the cloak simultaneously. And of course, the neck kind of almost goes into the head. This is like a breaking point, just to kind of show like intensity there. And then we have all this bunching up kind of in the center, like that, in contrast to the big bold line that we have out here. So, you know, everything's kind of working together versus just the details being in place and then kind of mimicking that pose specifically. Everything is working together. I get pretty art blind myself, so seeing how much I improved, just how my process has changed really shows. Yeah, that's the gratifying thing about redrawing art, is the fact that you really feel, oh gosh, that you don't really feel that growth until you actually sit down and redraw it. Now notice too that Drax's pose is really a lot more emphasized here, because it feels like he's shooting his head out and his body's kind of being pulled back a little bit from that. So it's one of those things where, like I said before, I kind of lost my train of thought there, as I've been doing kind of all stream, but that's okay. So now let's draw whoever this girl's name is. Again, I don't remember. If we got some Bram Stoker Dracula experts out there, please chime in if you can. I would appreciate it if you helped me out a little bit. So, looking at her pose here, it's like, yeah, you can tell she's just not she's not taking it from Drac. But I really want to emphasize how she's just like, yeah, whatever, man. So we're going to express that through how I pose the body and whatnot. So you can kind of notice I've got one hip swaying over the other. But we're going to draw her arms here and have them cross. But notice how her chest is also a little bit puffed out, because she's like, again, she's not afraid of Drac, at least in this interpretation that I drew it as. Like, she's not taking her crap. So she's going to stick it to the man, stick it to the bat, basically. I'm just going to do this one really quickly. And she's got her shoulder up to kind of show more confidence and all that. Just draw whatever I was trying to do here. I guess it's kind of like a something along those lines, maybe. Yeah, I mean, look how much more confident this is already. Just how I've got all the body parts positioned. And again, I'm sure if you got this, got the silhouette for this, you'd be able to kind of recognize a lot more clearly that this person is really stuck up. They're you can kind of tell their personality right away by just kind of how they're posed. We'll kind of get their face in there a little bit. This is kind of a weird angle I've kind of got the head, but that's okay. We're going to make it work. But again, like I said, not everything is straight. Not everything is like really, like, you know, it's organic. And that's what it really should feel like. It should feel, posing should be an organic thing. It should really make these characters feel like they're alive in space. Even if it's like a flatter art style that you're drawing in, I think that's very important. So yeah, something like that. So yeah, just a little bit of a look there on how I would kind of view my drawings and redrawing some of the stuff versus how I did before. Going to leave early. Goodbye. You take care, Shia. Thank you so much for joining us. Okay, we are at 2:25, so there's a couple things that I want to get at before we go, because I would rather not go over an hour and a half like I did last stream. So let me get to some of my last pointers here. Again, I told you that I was going to drone on for a long time and get nowhere. So, poses are great, but depending on what character you're working on, you're going to want to adjust the poses specific to that character and what matches their personalities best. So, let's talk about some of my characters quick for a minute. Let me just... Actually, hold on. I'll simplify it. So, just for demonstration purposes, let's take the two pro tags of my pilot that I'm developing right now, Quincy and Gordo. So these two are very different personalities, as some of you guys may know. But I wouldn't want to draw, certain poses and expressions with them the exact same way. So here's what I mean by this. So let's take some of the poses that we had right at the very beginning, where I was kind of showing you how we can push the body language to better emphasize the emotions and feelings of the character. And we'll apply them to these characters, but this is to show you kind of how, we would apply poses and certain drawings to specific characters, so that way they match, so they don't feel out of character. The only thing I know about vampires is that they like girls with no personality, apparently. I do remember that much from the book, I guess. So let's draw these two happy, I guess. So Gordo here, he would be absolutely overjoyed because he's a very happy guy. So we're gonna draw his face in really quick. So he's really enthusiastic about something. I'm not really sure what. We'll just get a face going here. Just some idea of what I'm doing. So this is basically Gordo on a really good day. Right here. So I'd have his neck really shoot out probably. I'd also have his arms kind of raise up. Now, since he's got a lot of neck above his arms, I would probably and no really visible shoulder, I'd bunch up his neck a little bit as he's raising his arms up. Just to kind of better match his physicality. So I'm just doing this really quick here to just kind of point out what I'm doing. So, yeah, he's really overjoyed. So we'll get some of the anatomy in there. But we can also mess with that as well. Again, we're connecting the lines together so they're forming unison. So we'll have kind of his arm connect to his back a little bit. And then we're kind of think about three dimensions here, trying to get his stomach in there. Like so. And we can have his feet kind of like this. Maybe. I was gonna try to have them like upwards like this, so they're kind of, it looks like he's running. But I'm not doing this too well. So I gotta figure out what's going on. I'll probably just do it simple like this for now. Nah, this ain't looking right, guys. This ain't looking right. Okay, well, this probably could have gone better. Let's do this instead. I'm just going to do like thumbnail sketches, just to kind of better emphasize like the poses themselves in a little bit of a quicker pace. So happy Gordo. Just gonna draw his mitts there. So he'd probably be jumping for joy right now with whatever's going on. And I'd probably shoot his legs outwards, actually. So Gordo, when he's really happy, he jumps for joy. He kind of stretches out a little bit, spreads out like this, and whatnot. Again, we're kind of connecting everything together, so this side of the leg kind of, in a way, goes up to his arm. So again, everything's connected. Kind of like this. His hair would kind of shoot upwards like this. Cursive, drawing a character with stumpy legs and big feet. Yeah, posing can be really tough for certain characters. So I prefer to just kind of do thumbnails sometimes, and that makes life easier. So there's Gordo right there. He's really happy. Now Quincy, on the other hand, would probably be a lot more conservative about it, about his happiness, because, you know, he's not as vocal, he's not as loud, not as social as Gordo is. So he'd probably, you know, we'd give him like kind of a nice chest because he's kind of a pompous little guy. So we'll do it kind of like this. He's got a chest popped up like that. And we'll have his arms, again, kind of up against his hips a little bit. Then we can have his arms kind of like this. So every character expresses themselves differently depending on their personality and their wants and desires, their circumstances, and all that. And they all have different ways of expressing each other. So basically what I'm emphasizing here is that you want to make sure when you're drawing poses that you make them specific to the character that you're drawing. So that way it matches with who they are. So let's draw the same characters like maybe mad or something like that. So Quincy gets flared up really easily. He gets angry very quick. So he would be very visceral about this. He could like really accentuate his spine here. He's got a really hunched look. And he'd have his arms like really high up in the air with like fists on them. Because all people have fists. But you know what I mean. He would have his hands really stretched out like this. And he'd have his like hair flared up here and whatnot. Again, he'd have his legs hunched like this. Maybe he'd have his legs kind of like scrunched up or something. Something like that to even further emphasize how angry he is. But something like that. Or if he was being like really like screaming in somebody's face, we'd like really make him stretch out. So that way you can have like a nice mouth expression where he's like kind of yelling somebody off. Now obviously as I'm drawing Quincy right now, you know, I was just saying he's not nearly as vocal as somebody like Gordo is about very deeply personal feelings. Quincy doesn't mind he has very horrible self-control. So when he's mad, he can't help it. So he gets very animated when he's angry. So something like that. Now if we were doing Gordo the same way, he's a very different personality. He's very soft-spoken. So if he were to get angry in any way, I would imagine he would probably like be a lot more subtle about it. Like he probably wouldn't be vocal about it. So we'd probably want something where like, I don't know, I imagine a scenario where he's got his hands crossed, but he's kind of like, he has his back turned. Because again, he's not the sort of guy that's just gonna shout at people to get what he wants or like to make his point read. He's a nice guy. He doesn't want to really do that, but he's still capable of like expressing when he's kind of disappointed with somebody. So something like this, and we can have his shoulders up and whatnot. But yeah, something like this. Something like that, where he's kind of got his back turned. Like this. He's kind of being a stick-up or something. And of course, if you want with the expression, you can get something like a pouty face or something. Basically. Or if we were to make like Gordo a little bit angrier a little bit, I would imagine specific to his character, like again, he doesn't want to get too into people's faces. So he'd probably be the sort to actually kind of lean backwards a little bit when he's mad and kind of in a way look away. Because again, he doesn't like being outright rude. There might be times where he could be, but he doesn't. He's not that kind to like get in people's faces if he's mad or upset with somebody. But I could also kind of imagine him acting like a disciplinary mom or something. So he's got like, here he would have his arms kind of bunched on his hips like this, like looking the other way. His head's kind of leaning towards this way. Again, because he wants to express like disapproval, but he's not gonna be a menace about it like Quincy can be. So basically this is all to point out and to kind of demonstrate with specific characters that you would want to, if they're expressing like a basic emotion, that you would want to customize the pose so that it matches the character. So Quincy's happy, if we go back here, Quincy's happy is not Gordo's happy. Or Quincy's angry is not Gordo's style of being angry or annoyed or whatnot. So again, we want to tailor the poses to that character so it best matches them. One pose cannot be used as like a catch-all in most circumstances. You know, unless you want to portray death and use the Family Guy death pose, then that's the only exception. So, let me get a drink of water. Very, very pinky coated. I will say this: Quincy and Gordo's dynamic is especially inspired by Pinky and the Brain, particularly as characters. They're very much their dynamic is very derived from those guys, or at least was initially when I made them. And now, while it's on my mind as an extension of this idea, because I know I mentioned it on my post, so I do want to address it. Times to go off model. Again, this is one of those pointers where it's more specific to the kind of art that I do, the sort of cartoony things that I attempt to with my characters and drawings. So by that, we actually have the model sheets right here, so I'll just reference those for a minute. So, in a lot of cases, when you're drawing like poses and expressions, you kind of want to keep... Quincy's actually the prime example for this. So, if we really stay true to Quincy's model, he's got his body here. It's kind of like a hunched over bean in a way. We got his face here. Look at his line here. We got his face here. Kind of like this. Just get in really quickly. Even the way I'm drawing it is kind of off model, but that's alright. It's supposed to be like a quick demonstration anyway. So something like this. He's got his face kind of oriented like that. He has legs that are kind of oriented like this, in a way. And his arms are kind of located like upper half of his body in this context. So we'll just settle with this for now. So depending on the context and what kind of pose and like, expression that you're shooting for, there are instances where it's going to be really appropriate to break the model, and where things are positioned to get a better, a much more stronger pose that better fits that scene and that character. So let me demonstrate this. Let's draw Quincy if he's like kind of shocked by something. So first of all, let's try to do that on model. So let's do the thumbnail first. Like if we try to do something like he's got like this. He's got his arms down here, and then he's got his legs kind of flaring up like this. Flaring up. He's got infections in his legs. So what if this was just like a rough drawing somebody had, and we tried to interpret that with the model that we were given. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to move these just out of the way so we have more room to demonstrate this. There we go. So let's follow Quincy's model here. I'm going to bring this further down. I'm going to bring this further. Where is this? There we go. So we can just look at it better. So if we were to stay true to the model, and we're thinking heavily on like the construction of the character. Okay, so he's segmented in two parts as we've established. We want to get some stretch in there. So he's probably going to look like this. And then his hands are up here, like the upper half of his body, like that. And they kind of go down here to this point. His fingers shoot out like this. I think you might be able to already kind of tell where I'm going with this. And then we got to make sure his legs are the right size too. So we kind of have to kind of crumble them like this if we're going to actually make it work. At least to match this sketch here. And then if we do the actual expression itself, we want to get the hair in there. We can probably have parts of the model like this. Have those glasses eyes in there. Make sure they're a certain amount of feet apart or whatever. And then we add the mouth. Like so. Now you're probably already looking at this and just going, this is looking a little stiff. And I would 100% agree with you, because we are just kind of sticking to what this model particularly tells us. So all of a sudden we're just kind of mimicking the roughness of this initial sketch, but we're just trying to match the model to it, and the results, and as a result of trying to be as accurate to this as possible, then it just kind of looks stiff in a way. Like it looks like, I don't know, like it was like compartmentalized almost. But what if we took this, we kept in mind the general details of the character, and we tried to stay more accurate to this pose, and really try to capture the energy of it. So we're going to start again. We're not going to be just looking at the model completely this time. I want to capture the energy of this. We're still getting that stretch in there, like the really stretchiness here. But notice how I'm not really making a huge fuss over the shapes at this point anymore. And I'm actually going to move the arms further down, like this, so that way there's a little bit more energy to them. Instead of feeling like they're just kind of locked up a certain place, they're like really extending down to better accentuate the momentum of the pose and whatnot. Are you going to do the same thing with the humans, cartoony or not? Actually, now that you talk about that, I do want to discuss some of my human designs in that respect. because I know I had a couple of things I wanted to say about them. So I'm going to try to hurry up with this. But he reminds me of the crazy frog. Anything but crazy frog, no. So we got his hands, like I said. They're really stretched down here, which if we look at the model, that probably wouldn't be the case from a physical point, but we're really accentuating this, so we really want it to kind of stand out. We're going to widen the eyes to really accentuate that fear. And we're going to have the mouth way bigger. Like it almost takes up his entire body. And then we can, of course, adjust the teeth to kind of better accentuate the pure primal fear that's being instilled in Quincy right now. We can even have these eyes here still. But we can have like a shine to him or something. We can have this still here. We can have just the hair shooting outwards in a certain direction. We don't have to keep true to the hair that's there. And we can, so we're basically just keeping in mind all the general ideas of the model, but we're customizing it so that way it fits perfectly with the moment instead of just being accurate to the character. It's obviously important to know your model, but in the world of cartoons, you can kind of do everything. I don't know which artist said this, but they said something along the lines of, if it looks like the character, then it's on model. So that's kind of my philosophy when I'm drawing my characters in more extreme poses like this. So just like this. I cut off a little bit of Quincy's finger. I'm sorry, man. Okay, so this time, since we weren't so concerned about being so accurate at the model and just trying to get the energy of the pose, this has a lot more energy than this does. Because again, we were thinking about the momentum of the pose here and not just the details, just getting the details right and masking them to the base that we had established here. Love how you draw them with the open mouth. I do love my crazy mouths. They're one of my favorite things to draw. Hello, Midnight Fae, welcome. And of course, you can have certain poses that really just kind of make no sense when it comes to the model, but for comedic effect would just completely work out. So something like I don't know, hold on. Something like this. I find crap like this funny when there's a gag in a cartoon and like the character just looks completely different for like one shot for no reason, just to accentuate a mood, I guess. So yeah, moral of the story, when you're drawing cartoons and you're doing funny poses, and you have model sheets and or models and whatnot, I warn about adhering to them 100% of the time, because you're missing out on some really funny, inventive possibilities with the posing and whatnot. And he has a really big finger. There we go. This is the new Quincy, guys. That's the new Quincy. Okay. That face is what my fiance's dog makes when you say no going outside. He's just like, ugh. If kind his fingers, you gave him a reason to react like that. I suppose so, yeah. He's just like, ah! Yeah. He'd probably be in even more pain and suffering, considering that. Okay, so somebody brought up my human characters, and that brought up another random topic that I wanted to get into, so let's dive in before it hits 3. I don't mind going over a little over if it means I can discuss a little bit more topics, but again, I don't want to go over too much like I did last stream and slave myself away like I did. So let's show off some more old artwork in this case, because this directly pertains to a point that I wanted to discuss at some point during the stream. So, you guys are probably quite familiar with my human characters a good deal. Maggie and Joe in particular. You know, obviously, humans nailing poses on, like, human characters is probably most important of all. Like, this is where stuff like gesture drawing really becomes helpful, more helpful than anything. But I want to show you, like, the absolute worst way you can pose human characters. And this is how. You just have them stand, and that's it. That's all you have them do. They just stand in place, and they look at each other, and whatnot, and there's like nothing really of interest happening. They just stand. So I want to kind of go over how you can make standing a little bit more interesting, because character standing doesn't always have to be this boring and lame. So I'm gonna run this down with you a little bit, just to give you ideas and whatnot. So let's take this drawing, I guess. This is when I first gave Joe hair, all the way back in 2019 when I was, oh gosh, 14, I think. I was a young lad. So, in this particular case, I mean, sure, there is some momentum here, but he's still just standing. So here's some ways to kind of make standing a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to use like Joe's modern proportions a little bit, the way I draw him now, just for comfortability. So let's just get his head in here real quick. I'll get his hat, his ear in there, and then his ponytail like that. And we can get kind of like his general head shape in there as well. I'm not really going to bother with it too much, just for time. Make that Quincy your profile picture. Yeah, just clean up this and use it as my profile. That might be really funny, actually. Okay, so when it comes to standing, this is kind of like just a general, really popular artist technique, but it's in regards to adjusting the shoulders and the hips so they're facing different directions and whatnot. So by this, I would probably, usually what I do first is kind of like figure out the direction of the rib cage first. So something kind of, we can have it twerk a little bit like this. And then we can have like the bones here, like the hip bone, like, kind of like this. We can have it kind of twist and turn. And then we can kind of have the legs kind of balance them out a little bit. But notice that twist in the torso and how that kind of changes everything. And then we can have like his shoulders here kind of come in. So now it looks like he's kind of leaning a certain direction instead of just standing straight. Like he's got momentum to him. He might actually be like walking slightly right now. So I'll just get his bogus pants in there right now to kind of emphasize this. So it's very possible that he's like walking. I'm not sure. But look how much more interest there is going with the body dynamics here versus if I were to just completely draw this straight and have the spine completely perfectly aligned. Look how much more rhythm there is in the body, just from making those slight adjustments to how you have everything positioned with the anatomy. It's very cool. It's a very neat little trick, the whole twist and turn. I like to call it twist and shout, personally. Yeah, look at that. A lot more interest when you have it like this, because then it creates more visual interest for the viewer as well, because there's more stuff going on. And then the same would apply with a character like Maggie, probably. Kind of like when the characters look awkward. It's so human to be awkward. I mean, I suppose so, yeah. But I'm more so thinking from like a drawing design standpoint and visual interest. So, yeah, like I said at the beginning, yeah, I mean, none of this stuff is like set rules because, again, I don't believe in the sentiment that things are set in stone when it comes to artistic things. So obviously stuff can be broken, but generally when I'm drawing human characters now, I try to add some more visual interest to how things are posed out. Definitely victim to the standing pose. Keep trying to at least the character's not just standing straight toward the camera. Yeah, it's a tough thing. It's very tough. You know, we look at people all the time, you know, as humans, as people of this world, of this society. So it's very easy, like, we notice everything about humans because we watch them every day, but we can't always explain, like, why a certain drawing would look off or whatnot, or why proportionately something doesn't look quite right. So we memorize all that stuff in our head, but it's just like, we can't connect the dots. And a big reason of why certain drawings might not look right is just the organicness is not there. So it's just about getting that in there. So I'm just going to quickly draw Maggie now and kind of demonstrate somewhat of the same thing with her proportions. This would be one of those things where, like, yeah, we'll keep the rib cage kind of straight, but then we can really kind of like bend the body a little bit, kind of like this. So that way there's more momentum down one direction, like she's got like a hip up a little bit further than the other one. So something kind of like that. Then you could, of course, have the pose like this. And then from there, you can maybe even have, like, she can have her hands crossed or something. Like this. Just do this very rough. But, I mean, look how much visual interest is happening right now with just how things are kind of aligned. We got the shoulders kind of facing one way right now, and then the hips are kind of balancing that out the way the shoulders are kind of adjusted. And then we can have like even one leg kind of facing this way, kind of like this. So just being conscious of stuff like that can really improve the flow and how natural your poses can be. Just keeping that stuff in mind, being able to play with the anatomy the characters have to create some really organic, you know, much more organic poses than otherwise if you didn't. So, yeah, that's my little spiel on how to make standing a little bit more interesting. And I realized that the proportions on Maggie are a little bit weird looking. I think the body is a little bit too elongated, so we're going to squish that up. And then we'll bring this down. Because Maggie is supposed to be a good deal shorter than Joe is. At least a little bit. So I'm just going to play with this for a minute. So yeah, something like that. Okay, it is almost 3 o'clock, but I want to make sure I go over one last thing, because this was something else that popped in my brain that I said I was going to talk about, but I haven't addressed yet. And that's balancing your characters and making sure they are grounded. So the reason I thought about that is, well, not necessarily with those, but let's go back to the comics that I was showing earlier, the Extraterrestrial Escapades comics that I was discussing in some detail earlier. It's just a matter of finding them in my ocean of old stinky art. Here we go. Of course I gotta find comics where you can actually see their feet and you can see them stand. I think my stream probably reset again. I don't know why I'm dropping so many frames all of a sudden again. Something happened at some point. I don't know what happened. As long as it's not too unbearable, I guess. Okay, so... Oh, I actually got a great example here. What month was this again? Trying to remember. Ah, here we go. So yeah, this comic right here. So I want you to just observe this Gordo for a minute, and just look at his legs. Do you think those feet are going to support this overlooming, ginormous noggin that he's got? I don't really think that's going to be happening. Or same with something like this, for instance. So I kind of want to go over this real quick, and where to place the feet and the legs in a pose, because that's something I think is terribly important. I won't try to spend too much time on this. Okay. So I'm just going to draw over this for a minute. So this is, let's just kind of get the basic construction down to an extent. So I have something like this. I love feet. I'm glad you like feet. So personally, I would probably just make his head a little bit smaller, because, you know, evolved tastes and whatnot. But if we were trying to kind of base off this pose as much as we can, I mean, drawing feet. Okay, thank you for making that clarification. So let's just pretend that like this is the form of this particular Gordo. Again, I'm going to try to kind of base off my drawer off this a little bit more. So he's got his hands cuffed in the center, that's all well and good, but his feet aren't really supporting him in any way. And they don't even look like they're planted to the ground at all, they're just kind of floating. So that's something really important to keep in mind when you're posing, is that whatever pose you got the character in, you got to make sure that it looks like they're actually supporting themselves in the face of gravity. So if I were to take this, I'll make his stomach smaller in this case, that's so weird. So, instead of having his feet, like, inside like this, and then they kind of weirdly look like this, that's not going to work, because his head is, like, facing down this way. So, this is where the center of gravity, like, he's going to topple over. So here's what we can do to kind of remedy this. It's not a complete fix, but we can do... First of all, I'd probably make his feet a little bit thicker. We can have his one foot face a little bit closer to the front. Notice how that's got like a actually definable heel, and it looks like it's planted here. Then I would probably do something like this with his foot, maybe. It's a little bit out there, but in this context, you know, he's trying to swoon over this lady. But I mean, look at that. He's actually balanced now. He's center. So sometimes you have to kind of do some really wacky things with the feet in order to have the character stay balanced to an extent. Same would probably go for this pose too. How would it go approach the balance in it? So I'm just kind of doing the pose really quickly here, accentuating the energy of it. So this one's a little bit better because these two are a little bit more even, but the legs could still be positioned in a better way so it actually looks like he's being supported. So I'd make his legs bigger again in this case. Something like this. Again, making sure you draw the leg in a way where it looks like it's actually on the ground instead of just like like this. So I'd probably have the leg actually stick out a little bit further with how I've got that positioned. So something like that. And there you go. So now it's sticking out a little bit more. So now he's actually, his center of gravity, he doesn't risk losing his balance because he's on the ground right now. And lastly, we'll go over this one here. So he's really enthusiastic. He's got his head kind of shooting forward like this. Something along those lines. He's got his arms kind of shooting out like this. Just kind of do it like that. We'll make his stomach like that. I really do not like how I drew Gordo back in the day. It was kind of weird. It's like these weren't. There's no like anatomy in his body at all at this point. It's just like lumps in a neck. It's very odd. But anyways, besides how I feel, the way his legs are anchored is really weird because they're kind of turning at this point. And then the legs shoot out this way. Again, really parallel lines here. When I'm drawing feet, I would definitely try to avoid that. Or just anything in general. So he's got kind of his legs pushed back, which is like almost the opposite of what we want. We almost want his legs to shoot outwards like this. So they're really sprung out because he's supposed to be really enthusiastic here. I didn't really do a great job on that leg. So we'll do this. Something like that. But then we'll have his other foot shoot out like this. Just to better emphasize and to better unify the pose like that. So it really looks like he's splooting like that. But also, more importantly, keeps him in balance. So that's the thing that we want. Like that. I'm noticing the stream is refreshing on my phone a lot, which is really concerning. I'm almost afraid to look back on the footage. I guess we'll find out. We'll see what happens. So yeah, there's that. Hi, Catherine. Welcome to the stream. Glad you could make it. We're just about wrapping up here, but I'm glad you could show up. So something like that. Again, making sure where you've got the legs placed will actually sustain the character in gravity, just like that. So I'm going to go ahead and take these and just move them over to the main folder we got here. Like this. Gordos. Do that. Just got out of class. That makes sense, yeah. Alright, we'll just exit out of that. So I'm pretty sure that's almost everything that I wanted to discuss. I'm actually going to just look briefly on a... hold on, like, my announcement post on it. I just want to make sure I covered everything that I promised. I have classes straight from 9:30 to 3 p.m. on Thursdays with no break in between. Never able to make your streams on time. But I made it this time. Well, I'm glad you made it this time. Yeah, I've actually been thinking for a while that maybe it'd be ideal if I moved my streams to like a different time of the week rather than on a Thursday. Thursdays just typically work really well for me because I'm at home. I don't work on Thursdays, so I'm not like sleep deprived by the end of the day when I get back. So it's like it's one of the only days during the week where I'm actually at some sort of good functioning level. But I also wonder if my viewership and the amount of people who would actually be able to attend would increase if I accommodated. So I don't know. I'll have to think it over, but I do want to work something out a little bit better. So yeah, let's see. Yeah, I suppose I went over everything that I was that I originally planned. So I guess from that's everything that I wanted to go over, at least on my end. So I guess for all those still watching, if you had any further questions or thoughts, anything to throw into the posing discussion that you would like to add, I'm all ears, willing to answer any last remaining questions or, any concerns or whatnot. Yeah, it depends on the semester, on what times and days I'm available. Weekends are usually when I'm consistently free. Yeah, that's when most people are consistently free. I'm learning. But I work on Saturday. Unless I started hosting streams like a lot later during the day, which for some people that might actually be a bit better. I don't know. I'll have to figure out something. Did you read the book from Twilight? If you're talking about the Twilight series, I know squat about Twilight, so I would not be able to answer that. My biggest exposure to Dracula as a character was the Bram Stoker book that I read during Gothic literature class, and very unfortunately the Hotel Transylvania series. That's my biggest exposure to this guy. So. Well, I suppose if nobody's got anything else, I guess I'll go ahead and close shop for the day. Thank you all for tuning into this one. This was kind of a weird concept, a little bit of an odder one for me to try out. I've read the entire series and seen all the movies over a dozen times. Catherine is running laps right now ahead of me when it comes to the Twilight series. What did you yap about? I was talking about drawing poses and posing characters, and why that's so important for stuff like animation and comic books and whatnot. Trying to fit in as much emotion and life into the characters, and really, showing their emotions and their thought process and their minds through the poses and how everything's kind of set up, more so through than just the expressions, and really pushing that to its extreme. And we were talking about feet a little bit too. Yeah, that's a pretty important talking point. Oh yeah, before I go, actually, I gotta make sure I make the dissection that I promised. Hold on, I gotta go in here. Sorry I missed out on it. Well, that's okay. If you ever want to watch it, the VOD for this will be saved, as most of my streams are. So if you ever wanted to look back at it, you can if you'd like. Might have missed the OC drawing thing from last month. I'm planning on doing another one of those, because the first one seemed to be very popular. So I definitely want to do another one at some point. But I also want to do another stream with like a guest again. It's been a while since I've had one of those, and I really want to do it. Okay, hold on. Oh, where is this thing? There we go. Oh, what do you mean file extension is not supported? I want to submit my OCs for it. I would be so down to analyze your OCs, Catherine. That would be a huge privilege of mine. That'd be an honor. Okay. Oh, hold on. So, the moment you or possibly nobody waited for, let's analyze the Family Guy death pose for just a minute or two. So this pose is great. It's probably the single best pose in Family Guy, period, because everything here works together. It works in favor of what the pose actually is. So the fact that Peter's dead, his limbs are kind of all over the place. So in the context of this, it really works out well. The fact that it's kind of all over the place and the limbs just have no rhyme or reason. The fact that the arm clips here for some reason. No, it's really great. And the basic shapes used here are really, really genius. So the fact that, like, and it's very simple. It's got that simplicity to it that I think is really nice. The thing that we've been talking about, this sort of shape, and then you got the limbs around it. We as a society of artists have been scratching our heads on how we can even rival the perfection of this pose, but we have not. We still have yet to figure it out, but you know, that's why we still study this stuff. So that's my analysis. I hope you all enjoyed that. Prada. Yes, we did have a lot to analyze from this pose. Not the Family Guy death pose. Oh, shut up. Okay, so I guess I'm gonna throw my hat up for the day and just call it good for the stream. Thank you all for tuning into this one. This was kind of an odd, not an odd, but like a more out there concept that I wanted to try. I really, like I said earlier, enjoy discussing my art theories and kind of explaining my thought process with this stuff in hopes that it helps other artists around my same level. Again, I don't really view myself as an art teacher. I just view myself as some guy with a lot of different ideas and influences and whatnot. So I hope anything that I discussed at all today was at all helpful in any sense of the word. And if it was, let me know. I definitely want to try more stuff out like this because there's so many other topics that I could discuss. But I'll have to do some brainstorming. Perchance win more Maggie and Joe content. Oh, goodness. I really need to find more time for those guys. Well, at the current time, I guess just to update you all guys as well, in 2 weeks now I'm going to be heading out to Nashville for Animation Y'all 2026. So I've been spending a lot of time prepping for that, just getting stuff like, you know, portfolio stuff set up and ready, and any housekeeping work that I want to get done. And I really don't know what's going to happen in my life after that, but in the midst of it, I'm still working on my animated pilot, Extraterrestrial Escapades. I'm still writing the second draft script for it. Hoping to get that finished before I head out, and then when I come back, I'll start roping out voice actors, hopefully. As for Joe and Maggie, oh man, there's so much I want to do with those characters. I just gotta make time for it. I will say this, once Extraterrestrial Escapades is done, I do want to do a short film about Joe and Maggie again. I really do. But I feel like I really need to do something like comics or whatnot, or short skits even. I feel like there's a lot that I could do with those characters. Because I think a lot of people know them, but like they don't know them, you know. So I'll think of something. Great advice as always. Thank you. Have fun at the conference, dude. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm gonna have the time of my life. I know it for a fact. So, yep, that's it. Thank you all for coming. I'll see you all next month on, well, hold on. Obviously post animation, y'all. On April 30th. So if you care to mark that on your calendars, otherwise I'll remind everybody about it when the time comes. So farewell, people. You're all the best. And take care. Y'all have a good one. Bye-bye. Let's end this stream. Let's kill it.